From dizzying heights to scary lows, Mike Prince has seen it all. And today he's going to share some of those extraordinary and enthralling experiences with us. Hi, and a hearty welcome to everyone tuning in to today's podcast. We are so happy that you could join us for the next 30 minutes or probably longer than that. We present an amazing guest, Mike Prince, with a very interesting journey.
Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. But first, a bit about the program and our organization. This has Open Up. It's a weekly podcast where we engage in meaningful conversations with change makers, exploring their personal stories and insights on topics that align with our values and mission. My name is Dipchand Ramcharitar. I'm the Outreach and Development Coordinator at Voice of Men 360. Voice of Men 360 is a non-profit organization based in London, Ontario, Canada. We've been around for the past 5 years, and we basically seek the interests of men and boys primarily, though we engage with other demographics as best we can. We are also part of International Men's Day, who are around in over 90 countries and for more than 20 odd years, serving in a similar capacity. So before we get to Mike, I would just like to run through our disclaimer. We would like to remind you that Voice of Men 360's mission is always delivered with good faith towards peaceful harmony. The views and opinions expressed in today's episode are those of our speakers and do not necessarily represent the Voice of Men 360. Our organization engages in discussion forums to offer inspiration and create awareness of the issues of men who wish to overcome their life challenges. We are not providing medical or therapeutic advice. Should you require that type of assistance, we recommend you contact a medical professional immediately. If you have any questions or concerns about today's episode or any Voice of Men 360 content, please email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. And now on with the show, we present the star of the show, Mike Prince, with a brief introduction, and then we can get to some questions. Mike.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dipchand. It's such an honor to be here. I think you guys have such an important mission that you've put yourselves in and at the forefront. So, I've been blessed to be able to be a part of this work. And so it's an honor to be here as a dad, a husband. You have my title there, a breathwork facilitator, spiritual seeker, a sales leader, and a conscious living coach. And so very passionate about what we're talking about today. So thank you.
You're more than welcome. We're so happy that you can join us today. So let's dive right in. And we begin with, you had a 6-figure salary, a wonderful family, everything, the works, things that the average person can only dream of. Yet you felt a worrying void. Tell us what drove you to search for something further in life in an attempt to fill that void.
Yeah, thank you. This is one of the most pivotal moments in my story and my journey. And, I'm blessed to have had a moment of an aha moment is all I can call it. We had just bought our house, and all the things you described were, as society would paint it, a wonderful life. It's what I'd always strive for. And I was shoveling my driveway in our new home. We'd been there a month, new baby boy and another one that was 1 year old. And
Wow.
It just hit me. I just stopped for a moment, and I don't know why. And I looked around, I looked at my house, and I started to think of my job. I started to think of now paying a mortgage and how locked in that is, and for the time. And I just thought to myself, I had created what, I'd always deemed to be the dream, but I felt like I was in my worst nightmare. I felt like I had gotten to a place where I'd gotten comfortable. And casually drinking during the week, doing it on the weekends, and not taking care of myself as much as I had in the past, and just gotten to a point where I was letting parts fall away of my interpersonal, of myself, right? Because I built this external world that, told me that I was supposed to be successful and that I was supposed to be happy. And so I'm very blessed that I had a moment like that. Um, and then I took action on it, that I actually answered the call and I didn't just keep going. And so that's really when it all started for me. And I can't explain why or how that moment happened, but I'm so grateful that it truly did.
So that was your serendipitous moment. So good for you that it happened, and it obviously changed your life for the better. Not that you were having a scrappy life at the time. Obviously, you were doing
No.
quite well for yourself. But as the saying goes, material things are very important in life. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's other things that can add meaning and purpose to life, in addition to like money and family and other things, which as I mentioned before, very important. So good on you. Now you did have a serious issue to deal with, one of many, I assume. You were in the best shape of your life when tragedy struck with Lyme disease. Did that disillusion you, or instead give you the inspiration to battle your way through and on to bigger and better things?
I mean, I'd say both, because following what I just mentioned, the story goes on to how I got in the best shape of my life. I was still not taking life serious enough. I was still going very, very fast and chasing a lot of things. I had just found new tools and ways to do it, right? So, and then Lyme disease was another piece of my journey that it brought me to slow down because I wasn't listening. And, I could go back to my childhood on going fast and how many signs I had, but this was the final one for the universe to speak to me and say, no, you're going to slow down. You don't have a choice anymore. And so it was a really hard pill to swallow at first, because somebody that's very outgoing, very active, I had found myself in great shape, mentally sharp, and then Lyme disease took it all away. I had brain fog. I went from over 200 pounds and in good shape down to 158 pounds and frail and crying through the night, and, felt I couldn't protect my family. And from what, but it was just, a part of it as men, what we feel. And so at first it was disillusionment, right? There was darkness, there was frustration, there was the why me, the victim mentality. And then, I tried everything that's out there. I researched and did it all, antibiotics. And then eventually I hit a point where I was in the lowest in that journey. And I just said to myself, I can sit here and I can allow this to continue to essentially take over my being, my spirit, my soul, all of it, right? Or I can fight, and I have to take this into my own hands because doctors couldn't help me, and I was continuing to deteriorate essentially. And so eventually it needs to be me. I need to do the work here.
Yeah, well, when you reach rock bottom and you see the light and you make yourself a positive from that point on, it does look good to reflect back on those times when you were down and how you were able to navigate your way through those difficult times. Now, with Lyme disease, it doesn't seem to be very common or well known, at least. I think Avril Lavigne, that Canadian singer, I think she suffered with that as well. So that's how I got to know a bit about it. And so it's not well known, but
I didn't even know what it was essentially when I was diagnosed with it either, to be honest.
Yeah, but the important thing is that you've seen your way through the difficult parts of it, and you're on your way up. So that's positive and encouraging. Absolutely. Now, in that process, you found a shaman. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
And got introduced to Kambo medicine. What was that experience like?
Life-changing. So I'll back it up a moment. Yeah, I tried everything. I shipped in supplements from across the world. I was doing coffee enemas myself, like anything you can think of. I was drinking potions and doing it. And then a friend of mine who knew in the tough spot I was in. He said, I heard that Kambo medicine boosts the immune system, and I've heard it helps people with Lyme. So for those that don't know what it is it's the secretion from an Amazonian frog, and it's poison. And so they burn it into you, and the second it hits your bloodstream, you feel it immediately, and you purge, but it also spikes your immune system because you're fighting a poison. So I went there for the physiological benefits. I worked with a shaman down in Vancouver, and what I got was much more than that. It's not a psychedelic medicine, but on day 2, I had all that I can describe as a spiritual unlock. I literally felt something in my lower left side turn, and it opened something up within me. And in that moment, it told me that I am my own healer, and you are on the path. And not only for me, but that it was my duty from then on to bring it to others, that I needed to do this work. And so it was a really big part of who I am today. And that's, retrospectively looking back on Lyme and my whole journey, it was the greatest gift I've ever received.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean
No, that's okay. I was kind of at the end there. Yeah.
Yeah. That seems to be a sort of a dangerous path when you mentioned that part about the poisonous frog. Sometimes we need to do things that needs a certain degree of risk, to see that reward that's out in the horizon. So you took that risk, and you're here today to talk about the benefits of doing so. To what extent, or was it something else that inspired you to start your own business?
Really in the work that I do now in this line of business, I had a business when I was younger as well in water sports, completely different. But I would say each time it has been a passion, right? And when I had that all I can describe as a calling, right? And that feeling of inner knowing, like, okay, this is the work I need to do. That's where it came from. And then looking at it and saying, okay, how can I expand impact here? How can I get my voice out there farther? How can I help more men? Right. Because ultimately this goes back to me in that driveway and looking at it, I feel, and I know for a fact now standing here that there's so many men in this world that are chasing society's dream, and they push and push and push and get to the point of burnout. And, they're not even living the lives that they want to, regardless of how much money's in the bank or if they have the things that we were told to chase. Right. And so for me, it was looking at that and simply saying, how can I not do this? How can I not step into this further and share this information? Right. And so for me, it unfolded in an obsessive path of learning more. And at each phase of learning, how to feel better, how to tap into purpose, how to get energy every day, how to be a better father, a better husband. I was obsessed with also bringing that to other individuals. And I knew that in order to expand, in order to put more time into that, I had to be able to have it make financial sense, right? So that's where the business side of it came. And at first, I can tell you for a couple of years, we broke even just bringing impact and retreats and virtual group gatherings, all of that stuff. Because I have done a lot of this in the past with a partner of mine, Trevor Turnbull. And we built a lot of it just on wanting to create impact, right? But since then, it's continued to ripple out.
Yeah, well, it's admirable. I look up to people who have taken the bad experiences in their lives and turned it into something positive that can help other people. So that's commendable on your part. So well done. Regarding your work itself, how do you measure the success of your work, and what impact do you hope it will have on your clients?
That's a really good question. I'll say a lot of people might answer this and say the life transformations of my clients, but that's a byproduct of the work that we do. I think just the success of my work is getting to continue to work with men, just getting to continue to work with more. That in itself to me is an achievement, and that in itself to me is success. Every touch point I get with another individual to create any little bit of impact in their life, right? Whether it's a tiny aha moment of, oh man, yeah, I never thought of that, or I never implemented that practice before and I've been doing it and it changed my life. So whether it's an old friend that's called me up because they see that this is the work I've been doing for years now, or a new client and I see the full transformation and how it ripples out into the relationships in their family. I mean, the true indicators to me of success are just really me continuing to show up and do it. And then, every touch point that I get, I believe that's really defining success right now. And of course, there's markers that I would like to hit, and I have my own personal goals. But when I look at it from a really holistic view, I think it's really that. It's the touch points.
Absolutely. And for those of us out there who may be interested in starting up their own business, what advice would you give other entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs looking to make a positive difference in their communities?
Yeah, I would say in terms of entrepreneurs thinking of starting up their own business, just do it. Especially if it's something that fires you up. It does not need to be perfect. Everybody always looks to, I'll create the business when I get here, or I'll create the business when I save X, or when I do that. And like, the longer we wait, the further away that gets from us, right? So the journey is going to be messy. That's the whole point. As we go through this journey of life as a human, it's the entrepreneurial journey is so closely tied to this, what I would call the spiritual journey, the development and the interpersonal journey of self, of growth, because there's so many challenging moments along the way. And every piece of that journey is tied to what we believe and what we feel about ourselves and the habits that we implement in our lives. So I think, the biggest message and words of encouragement there is just do it. It's going to be messy. It's going to be hard. But as we push through, you're going to learn more about yourself than anything or anybody or any book can teach you. As long as you persevere and you keep moving forward, you will find out so much about yourself. And it's even more of a benefit, when it's something that impacts the community. There's an even bigger why behind that drive of creating the business, right? It almost becomes you're doing a disservice to your community now if you don't bring that into the community, right? If you don't launch that business by holding back your gifts, by holding back your business, whatever that is, you are now doing a disservice. So if you can look at that why every day, that's going to be a huge motivating factor and driver towards pushing you to get that business out there.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is there's so many of us who procrastinate. You don't have that self-confidence. It's always that what if question, And so, as you said, we should take the Thomas Edison approach. Fail 100 or 1,000 times, but keep going. It sounds kind of cliche, but I'm not sure if there are any other prescriptions that can work better than just giving it your best shot going forward. And don't think too much.
No,
get out there and get going.
Yeah, you know that there's a reason why these old sayings have been around so long, right?
Exactly.
They may sound cliche, but they're all true.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I want to shift the focus to something that relates more to our organization, and that's basically dealing with men. So to begin with, how do you think traditional notions of masculinity can be both beneficial and limiting at the same time for men?
Oh, very good question. I'll start with the beneficial, and I think when we look at our stereotypical men and what we've all grown up in, it's to work hard, and it's to be a provider, and it's to be strong, right? And I think those are very, very good traits to have as any individual, right? But especially a man, of course, we should be working hard. We should be role models in our communities, right? When we get into relationships and we become fathers, we should be the best providers we can be. We should be those rocks for the ones that our loved ones in our lives. Right. Where some of these limiting pieces come in, right, is to be that rock and that warrior doesn't mean that you can't take your armor off. It doesn't mean that you can't cry and be vulnerable, right? And I think that's where when we look at the mainstream and we look at, how we've grown up, our parents, right? A lot of us anyways, we were taught to suck it up, to keep moving, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that's where the limiting factors come in, because to be any powerful individual in this world, we need both. You need duality always, right? We need that hard work here, but you need that deep rest, and you need that place you can take your armor off and you can go and have a good cry. And it's okay. You have a safe place to do that. There's no shame to be felt. That in fact is courageous.
Yeah.
Because you're willing to show that part of yourself.
Absolutely. The sad thing, as you mentioned there, it's a stigma with society. It's a double-edged sword. You got to be macho. You got to be standing up for everything and fall for nothing, because the minute you show your vulnerability, people look down at you as being weak. So I think we here at Voice of Men 360, we do advocate partly for that, so that men can feel safe, they can feel comfortable expressing their emotional side to their life, because we're not robots. We come with blood and tissues and bones and everything else that everybody else has, and so we're part and parcel of the human race, and we do have that vulnerability factor that so many of us stifle, because part of it is obviously I think it's innately built into us. I guess from the dawn of civilization, we've adopted that way of life, but also it's been so expected of men today that the minute you show that weakness, you look down on. But as I said, it's something we try to advocate for in the sense of awareness, to create a public awareness to men and their, what you might want to consider their weaker side. So that's something that we all can look at and get some sort of inspiration to do something about it. Now, what role do you think men's groups and communities can play in supporting men's personal growth?
I think they're a massive part of men's growth, right? And I just actually started one in my own community because I've been in this virtual space for so long. A few of our leaders said we need to do this in-person stuff. It's so much more powerful. And so to give men a space where we can have exactly what we just spoke about, man to man. Women in this world have many spaces that's the norm to do when they go and get their nails done, when they have wine nights, when they do the thing, right? And guys just get together and they talk about sports, and it's all surface level. And it doesn't give the opportunity to open up. And so I think when we talk about men's gatherings in communities, it gives men that opportunity to normalize the deeper level conversations. The marital challenges, what it means to be a dad, what it means to be a man in society today, what it means to find our purpose, right? And a place that you can come and just be like, shit, things feel really heavy right now. And that be okay.
Yes.
Right. And so the importance there, and when we talk about community, is exactly what we talked about previously, right? Those men now, that's their space so that they can go back to their families and be that strong man again, because they have this sacred space that they can do this in. And maybe they can create new boundaries at home, or they can create new communication at home that they didn't have before as well, because now you have men on different levels, you can call it, right? But maybe a different level of emotional intelligence, emotional growth. And now you have a 24-year-old getting advice from a 44-year-old, or maybe it's the other way around sometimes. Age really is a huge factor, right? But it's those who have evolved to really look at things and just, they can be the calm amongst it, and they can regulate themselves on a daily basis and go in and have those conversations together, and then go back to their worlds and be the leaders in the corporate space, be the leaders of the family, all that. So I think it's absolutely vital that we have these spaces.
Yeah, that's for sure. And this is sort of a similar to the subject we're on right now, sort of a similar question. How can we work to create a culture that encourages men to prioritize their emotional and mental well-being?
Sadly, my first thing that comes to mind when you ask that question is mainstream media, right?
Yeah,
And I don't like that answer, but I think as humans, we are entertainment beings, right? And so many people tune into the movies, they tune into television shows, they tune into the news, and what's portrayed there is what they believe, because they coin these people as authority figures. So that's the first one I'll say. The second one, I think, is, I believe, more in the people level, right? And that's the fathers of this world, right? The teachers of this world, setting example, be the living examples of these, right? And men that are regulated in this world, that are not on edge, that are not irritable all the time, frustrated all the time, angry all the time, they are the ones setting the example for the younger generation, right? So we need leaders in communities. We need more men to rise up to say, I'm not afraid to be the one, to be that example, right? And as we have these step up, these men with, they can be the strong guy, but their hearts are open wide. They're not afraid to bring up any topic. They're not afraid to let the tears flow, to give other men permission to do the same. I truly believe this is what's going to have a cultural shift as we grow, this army of what I call conscious men, right? This is where the change is going to come from, at the people level, and it's going to slowly grow and grow and grow.
absolutely. And the thing about it is, it's not about men being there for other men. It's about a bigger picture here, in that it would benefit society in the long run. It's something that when men are comfortable and can create with that safe structure that they possess, that foundation, and they feel that society can look at them as important figures in life, because it seems to me in recent times, on a general, like especially in Western society, men have generally lost respect. So I think it's something we need to address. And if we feel respected as men, again, we would perform better. But we can't just sit back and play have that victim mode mentality.
No, and I think, sorry.
And sure, go ahead.
I was just, one more thing came to mind as you were saying that, that, like, I think the feminine in our lives, right, also need to support this, and they need to give space for the men to be able to show up in these ways, because that's the other side of the equation, right? And there's a lot of healing that needs to happen there because of the last 50, 100 years, right? Yeah. So on both sides, there needs to be this maturity to communicate from a very authentic and loving place, and understand one another, to say, I need the space to do this. This is how I'm going to show up. This is how I need you to show up, right? I think that there's a big unfolding that's going to happen there, and just grow beautifully as well. But there needs to be, a lot of acceptance on both sides.
Absolutely. And like I said, ultimately society would be the benefactor. They would be the one
totally
benefit more than anything else. Now, the next question is a bit of a long one, so I'm just going to get to it. The current state of affairs for many young men today is very concerning. Numerous challenges hinder their potential, including a lack of motivation and purpose, which consequently has resulted in more high school dropouts, involvement in gangs, substance abuse, homelessness, incarceration, etc. How can these pressing issues be best addressed in terms of better education, life purpose, relationships, and community development?
This is a huge question. I think we need a whole other podcast for this. But
we certainly do.
But I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, and unfortunately, I think this is probably where, the broken piece in a lot of these scenarios is the home, right? The role models at home. And that's probably why they are having these challenges in the first place. But if it's a stable home, if there's two parents there, then that's where it needs to begin, is by being the role models, right? And really understanding that they're leaders, and it's not about saying, do this, do that. It's about doing. It's about us taking action and showing. And so I think you nailed some of the other pieces there, right? Is same in the school system, right? In the role, those are the other role models, authority figures, or the coaches in their sports. So it has to happen there, because peer to peer, they're just not developed enough yet to influence each other in a positive manner, I'll say. And that's stereotypical to say, but generally it is, right? So it's a very tough question to answer because there's so many moving parts to it. But ultimately, it is finding a piece of that purpose as well, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, yeah. I was listening to, or watching rather, a red carpet event once for the Oscars a few years ago. And that question was asked to Denzel Washington. And, what can the school do? What can, society do? What can the government do? And he says, no, hold on. As you said there before, he said, it starts in the home. Mm-hmm. The fathers need to be there in the home to install discipline in that child and a sense of belonging and purpose and self-confidence and everything else that,
love
nurtures that child love to maturity. And so he said it starts in the home. And he says right now, for a lot of young men, the streets are their fathers. And
they feel belonging.
Yeah.
That's what we're all striving for, that, right? We all just want to belong somewhere.
Yes.
And, you talked about how we carry everything inside us from many, many moons ago. We were tribal beings. Yeah. We're not meant to be isolated. We're not meant to be. So our systems are wired to be in tribes. So if men don't feel their tribe at home and they don't feel safe at home, of course they want to leave that, and they're going to find, other broken individuals to make that new tribe with.
And sadly, that's reflected in when these kids grow up into adults. The possibility or probability rather of incarceration, homelessness, drug addiction, prostitution, and whatnot increase tremendously when the absent father phenomenon takes place. So it's one thing, having that situation as it is, but the potential for disaster later on in life is so real, and it's mind-numbing. It's mind-numbing what happens without that guidance. So it's something that we need desperately to address. That situation.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say on that, right, is as we said, these leaders that we need in communities, right? People to see, to try to spot these, right? To try to see the kids that are lost, to try to speak more, to be more outspoken about these things. If they are leading sports teams, or if they are leading a classroom, or if they are leading a lunchroom with colleagues, right? And show love and compassion and kindness where maybe that person wouldn't have got it otherwise, right? And we never know what that small act of kindness, what it can do.
Absolutely. And so we're winding down. What final message or advice would you like to share with our audience?
Really, I think when you bring up all these struggles, I think mental health is a huge piece of this equation, right? Yeah. And so I would love to just remind whoever tunes into this that happiness is a choice. Regardless of what you have in life, regardless of all the opportunities, regardless of all the things, we all need to work at it every single day. And the simplest thing you can do, I'll share a practical piece of advice. I love this one. When I work on people with like morning routines, where I get them started at doing something so basic and simple, but this is why most people won't do it, right? All of the answers are in front of us, but before they go to bed and right when they wake up, force a smile on your face. Our minds are so powerful that they don't know the difference between a forced smile and a real one. They will release those same chemicals anyways, and we will feel happy. And then you step out of your bed when you feel happy, and usually only takes a few seconds. But a smile is contagious. And if anybody's next to you, that energy is going to flow to them too. And so each and every day, we get the opportunity to choose happiness. When we choose it that first thing in the morning, we can then make smarter choices. We can then drop into gratitude. when we drop into gratitude early in our day, we start to look for it. Automatically, our part of our brain will search for it in our environment. So we've created this spiral effect that we ripple out into the world we go, and we're going to spread that. So just to remember that, and we all have to work at it each and every day.
That's such an inspiring message. I hope people can, take that to heart and obviously would benefit from it. How can our listeners learn more about your work, including your contact information?
I'm most active on Instagram. So that's at The Conscious Creator Coach, or my website is just consciouscreator.world.
Okay. Well, we've reached pretty much to the end of the show. But before we get to the last question, I would just like to ask the audience, the people out there, we are Voice of Men 360. We would dearly love you to be more involved with us through different ways. And we have different mediums under which we can be reached. If you want to help us in any of our shows, if you want to contribute, make a comment, criticism, anything of that sort, you're welcome to do so, whether you're just an individual or professional person, you belong to a community of sorts. Even if you're a government official or business person, we welcome one and all to share your opinions and to engage with us as much as you can. Our phone number is 226-289-8784. Our email address is info@voiceofmen360.org. And our website is www.voiceofmen360.org. Also, you can find us on pretty much all major social media platforms. We have a Facebook group page. Please join our group and you can see our daily activities. And obviously, we would like you to invite as many of your friends as possible. Some of the social media platforms we're on are Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. And we would love for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Voice of Men 360. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're at the end of our show. We really enjoyed the time spent with Mr. Mike here today. We have one final question for you, Mike. What's next for you, and how do you see your work evolving in the future?
For me, really now, it's expansion. So I would like to get on stages. I believe that's where my voice can truly be amplified, to tell my story, to give others permission to do the same, and to share inspiration and wisdom that I've gained over the last few years. So, though I do a lot of private work coaching, I truly want to get on stage where I can access a lot more individuals and just really speak from the heart in those moments. And I know that's, some of the times I've been most inspired growing up as a young man is when somebody on a stage looked me in the eye and you felt their message, right? And that's truly my goal, is when I leave a room or I leave a conversation, is for individuals to feel that, feel better than when they came.
Absolutely. And you certainly have a lot to offer. And so, for the people out there, please, the Conscious Creator is somewhere you can get a lot of information from. And so again, it was a pleasure having you, Mike, on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And to the audience out there, we really appreciate you taking this time to spend with us. And last but not least, our controller, Mr. Sivam Velautam, our president, he's behind the controls, but he plays a very important part as well, obviously, with our organization in this program. So thanks again to one and all, and have yourself a good evening. Goodbye from all of us here at Voice of Men 360.